Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you're watching this. I am out and about today, so I thought I'd get something on film if I can. That said, I filmed one of these starter things the other day up in Newport, no, not Newport, Watford Gap Services, and then I completely forgot to get any of what I was doing on video, and I was out for a couple of days, which is a bit of a shame because I was looking at all sorts of stuff. So still not completely used to doing it yet, but there we go. So my day as normal has started down in southeast Kent. I'm roughly halfway between the bottom of the M2 and the bottom of the M20. Today I'm in Surrey first of all, so it's up the M20, M26, M25 for all that palaver there where they're doing some works at the moment. Stopped at Cobham's Clackett Lane Services to get something to eat. Usual kind of fare for a day when I'm out and about. But it did get me thinking, particularly the other day when I was up north for a couple of days. This morning up the M20, there's two places for that particular breakfast I can stop at Folkestone, two in Ashford, then Maidstone Services, Clackett Lane Services, Cobham Services, and then obviously where you're going on from then. When I go M2 way, there's nothing at the gate services, then Medway, Thurrock, South Mims, Tottington, Northampton, Newport, Pagnell, got them to the wrong way around, nothing. So the next place to get the McDonald's breakfast, if you like, is Watford Gap Services, 156 miles from home. So there we go. So what am I up to? Got people looking at me, funny looks, what is he videoing himself in a car? So what I'm up to today, I'm doing a damp inspection first. Been asked to look at and diagnose what a damp issue is in a particular house. Then I need to do a structural inspection up in North London. My colleague's doing a flood reinstatement claim up there, and the client's added in loads of extra works, and he owns the whole building of 3 flats, A, B, C. So we're looking at C, which is in the middle. So it goes A, C, B. Don't know why, but there we go. He wants to take out an internal wall, which is load bearing, so I need to work out what it's supporting, so get some drawings updated for the structural engineer. And then one of my other colleagues is doing another flood job somewhere else up North London way. They've had a the drying company have said that the property's dry, but they haven't issued a certificate of dryness yet, but they need to get the floor laid. So I said, look, I'm on that way. I've got to kind of drive past it on my way back, so I'll pop in, do a couple of carbides of the floor just to see how dry the screed is. So I will try today to get some of this on video. If I don't, there we go. You won't see any of this, but if you do, it's because I remembered to. So yeah, let's crack on, and I'll see you at the first job. So first up, there's a few different issues in the property. I think there's about 7 or 8 different locations. I'm just going to show you briefly 3 here. Some damp staining to the walls and ceilings throughout the ground floor and the first floor. So when I'm doing inspections such as this, my first thing is to really good look around the internal and external parts, almost walking straight past the defects. I'm not interested in them at this stage. What I'm trying to do is build up a 3D model in my head of exactly how the property is built, how it's put together, what elements are reacting with other elements of the building, solid walls, cavity walls, what's the pointing condition like in a solid wall, is it lime, is it cement, is there a cement render, all this kind of stuff, so I can build up an opinion as to how the house is built. Once I've done that, I generally start recording psychrometrics. These are profile basically as to what the water's doing in the house. So we've got the temperature, the relative humidity, and it's important to state that relative humidity is an expression as to how much moisture that air can hold at any given temperature. So the higher the temperature, the more moisture it can hold. So quite often if you've got a cooler temperature, relative humidity will in fact go up. Here is I have a dew point temperature. Now this is critical because any surface temperatures that are below the dew point, condensation will occur. And also looking at the absolute moisture content. So as relative humidity will rise and fall with temperature decrease and increase, absolute humidity is the actual moisture content in the air. So once we've done that, and we'll get hygrometer readings throughout the whole house, we go around with thermal imaging, and we're starting to see straight away there's some issues here. So we've got showing you thermal images, and then straight away afterwards what's happening with what element that is of the structure. So in this first one, we've got the ceiling in one of the bedrooms, and there's the ceiling there. I can actually lightly see a bit of pattern staining to that ceiling as well. I'll come on to that. And in the second photo here, we've got some blobs on the wall. So you know, oh my god, what are these blobs? What's going on here? It's dot and dab plaster. You're not going to see that unless you start, you know, tapping the wall and using thermal imaging to see how it was fixed up to the original brick wall, which was a solid wall. Here we've got a scaling detail in front of the property. So again, thermal image, and then the normal image. And here we can see, because this is an uninsulated element of construction, we've got quite a bit of heat loss between the rafters, which is then causing condensation to occur on the underside. As part of our assessment as well, we'll record anemometer readings. This is showing 5.31 litres per second through an extractor fan. That should be at least 15, so it's working at a third of the rate of which it should do. So this is all enabling us to build up a real good model as to, first of all, how the building's constructed, and then what's happening to the air and temperatures inside the building. At the front of this property, just before I show you this first, this thicker bed joint is hiding our damp proof core, so it's a twin layer slate, and just in the corner here we can see our 2 layers of slate, typical of anything up to the 1930s really. Slate damp proof courses like this, they don't fail, as people tell you. Well, it's a highly protected part of the building. If the damp proof course fails, it's because there's a major movement in the building. It gets compromised a lot, but here we can see all the brickwork below damp proof course is absolutely sopping wet. Everything above is nice and dry. So we've got soft ground levels here, and we are going to get times when this is absolutely soaking, run off from a driveway, soaks into the ground. It's going to soak into this brickwork, and a degree of it's going to soak up, but you're going to need a constant supply of water for that to happen. You can see it here. So but then we've got obviously our slate damp proof course is stopping anything further from happening. So overall, this property, there was no damp ingress issues. It was condensation, not particularly bad, but it's happening in various locations, so I've advised my client accordingly. Now, this is 6 or 7 minutes of quickly whistling around this property. Our inspection for 2 of us, we were here about 2.5 hours looking at this, so there's a lot of data to collect. But this property inspection is done, so now we're back in the car and off to North London. Okay, so we're all done down in Surrey. We've come up to Belsize Park kind of area of London just to look at a structural issue. That one down in Surrey was predominantly condensation. Something a little bit different, I'll say a little bit different. Back in the 80s, the BRE said that 90% of properties with a damp issue was condensation. That was the 80s. We're now sealing everything up, double glazed windows, so it's probably more likely to be in excess of 90% now. Anyway, let me just flip this around. So we're up in North London, Belsize Park, kind of Swiss cottagey area. Our client wants to do some alterations. This is a fairly dated, shall we say, being polite, flat. It's a 1-bed flat, bedroom through there, bathroom through there. Actually, that's a 2nd bedroom through there. And this is our kitchen area. I don't really know where the kitchen living room, but I don't know where the kitchen was. And our client wants to alter it to do something in the order of this. So what we're looking at, we've had a bit of a look around. All of our floor joists are spanning front to rear. They are around 50 by 225, and they are between 340 and 380 centres. And the outside walls are solid brick. There we go, they're about 280, they're in Flemish bond. The blue dash is the rough layout. We've got a hip roof above, and although it's stud work, we've got a wall running through here at the moment, which is load bearing, and our client wants to take that out to do some alterations. So what we're going to do now is go to the flat downstairs where we're doing some further work, so we can try and see how this wall's supported, because we've got quite a ceiling height here. It's around 3.3 metres. Like I say, even though it's stud work, we need to know exactly how it's loading here. Now what we can do is have a look at the nailing on the floor joists to see if it's running through level. I can't quite see those because we've got different We've got different stain finishes now on the floor. Some are old, some are a bit cleaner, so I can't really see many nails. Actually, we've got a line of nails running through this line here, and it does seem to go right the way under. So it might be that this is a load-bearing wall. Well, we know it's a load-bearing wall, but it might be that it's onto floor joists that are then onto a load-bearing wall somewhere else. So we'll get some measurements across the flat this way so we can pinpoint this wall. Just to tie it up with our drawings, then we'll go downstairs and measure up our load-bearing walls down there. Okay, so in the downstairs, this flat is originally, it's a suspended timber floor, which is what we got in some places. There's a big concrete lump in the middle, but what we've got is, even though it's suspended timber, no bloody ventilation to this floor at all. So, actually, I think there might be a bit of an air brick there. So, distinctly lacking. Oh, actually, and an old blocked up one there. So issues here. They've taken out rotten floor joists, and the reason probably is due to lack of any suitable subfloor void ventilation rather than any real flooding issues. So here we're stepping down again in the back area, but we've got this big lump of concrete in the middle of the building, which is a little bit odd to say the least. Anyway, our floor joists are indeed off-centre to upstairs, so we've got a beam that is supporting the floor joists and in turn the load-bearing wall above. So we'll get a measurement to that beam so we can plot it on the drawings and get a size of it. Okay, so I found some steps and we're looking at this beam. So the actual width of the plaster work is, 130? So then we've got 15 mil or so of plaster and skin both sides. So we're looking at a 100 mil thick beam. And then the other way, it's 230 coming down. But again, we've got plasterboard and that on the bottom of there. So that's going to be in the region of 215, so maybe 200. So that's an 8x4 beam. Doesn't look to be too bad a condition. And if we poke our heads up, do you know what? I came across this years ago in a property down in Dover where the floor joist actually spanned from front wall to rear wall, something in the region of 9 metres. And we can see here that that's one span of floor joist going all the way through. So quite an extensive span, but they still take a load-bearing point in the middle because we've got a floor joist spanning 9 metres, or sorry, the floor joist length is 9 metres, but it can't possibly span that far, so it bears onto the rear wall, the centre beam in this case, and then the front wall. So we'll get this information over to the engineer. What's probably also the engineer's going to want to know is the length of this beam, because it's going to need to be replaced. So from one end of support all the way down to the other end, which is on that dot there, is 4.322. There we go. So we get this information over to the structural engineer. That means we can then confirm what the layout we're going to have upstairs. So that can be designed and confirmed. Just doing a few alterations to that. And then the contractors are due to come and get rid of all this rubbish and then start the reinstatement of this ground floor flat. Okay, so that's all done down in Belsize Park kind of area in London. I'm now going to nip over to Dalston, kind of Stamford Hill area, N16, just to do a damp reading on a floor, because the drying contractors have said it's dry, but they've not issued a certificate of dryness yet, and the flooring, the builder wants to get the floor down. Might be the reason they've not issued a certificate of dryness is because they haven't been paid, because the insurers are quite slow to pay, bless them. So I'll see you over in Stamford. So now I'm over in Stamford Hill. Just need to check this floor. Like I say, the drying company has said it's dry, but they haven't issued a certificate of dryness yet. So doing a carbide test in the floor to see what's actually going on. I have been advised by the builder who stood behind me that there is DPM in the floor. So rather than drill one big deep hole through the screed, not knowing how thick the screed actually is, I've decided to drill a couple of small holes. So what this will do, this will enable me to get some samples of the floor, dust particles, whatever, and then pop it into my carbide meter. Now, doing this, I've gone through before in other videos, we put the sample into the chamber, and then I measure out 2 level teaspoons, or sorry, 2 level measuring spoons of carbide reagent, calcium carbide, pop those in the lid. The reason that doesn't go in the chamber together is if that starts to cause an action prematurely, because the minute that carbide reagent reacts with water, it produces acetylene gas, and we need that gas to pressurize this chamber. If I mix them before the end is on and the chamber's sealed, then some of that pressure will escape and I'll get a false low reading. So mix them together, and then I'll normally leave this at least 5-10 minutes or so for the reaction to occur properly, which then gives me a proper reading. Here we can see we're maximised now at about 2%, and past 64 says that concrete is dry up to about, screed is dry up to in excess of 3 or 4%. So we're satisfied that this screed is nice and dry. However, I will add, being completely honest and open at this stage, I couldn't think for the life of me while I was doing this what past 64 readings were, because I don't carry them with me. So I was sat in the van afterwards, as you'll see in a minute, differing about this. I sent them through to my colleague and he just looked it up and said, oh yeah, it's bone dry. I should have known that, but you can't remember everything. Okay, that's me done for today. That is a bit of charging around London, looking at different properties. I've actually quite enjoyed my day out. So by the time obviously you get to this bit, hopefully you've done so. Thank you for getting so far. I would have voiced over most of the defects inspection that we did first of all. So quite significant, well not significant, but mainly a condensation issue in that property that needs to be resolved. Went through it with the client and start with the zero cost stuff first. And a lot of zero cost stuff with dealing with condensation is knowledge. If you can understand yourself how living, breathing, bathing, cooking, everything else produces moisture vapor, and how to get rid of that moisture vapor, then you're a long way to reducing the amount you're reducing the amount of moisture vapor you're producing, which in turn reduces the amount of condensation that can actually occur. Then second inspection was the structural wall removal that we're doing in North London, and I've just been to this property in Stamford Hill area-ish. Actually, I don't know where it is, N16, and the floor's been dried post-flood drying, and the company's come and certified it as dry. I do need to check the readings I've got against past 64. Just to check that if 2% is considered dry for concrete, because I can't honestly remember. I've actually just WhatsApped those to my colleague so he can check the data on that. So that's it. That's a day out and about. The kind of days I enjoy, where you're charging around from A to B to C, getting stuff done. If you got this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, let us know. And please like and subscribe to the channel. That'd be bloody marvellous. And I shall see you on the next one. Thank you.